What's up, guys? Welcome back to Mike It Yourself. And this week's video, we're going to cover something I don't typically use because I didn't know it existed when it came to writing. So let's take a look at this product and I'll explain to you why this isn't normally part of my toolkit. Alright guys, so what are we talking about? Well, if you know, Cerwin Vega is a sponsor of our channel, and I was cruising their website and came across this very cool piece of technology, and that is essentially a dash cam, dual cameras, for your motorcycle. I think that's amazing. That's like super cool, because the reality is this: for me, I am not a moto vlogger, so I don't do a chin mount for my GoPro, or I don't do a bar mount. Really, that's just not my thing. I've done one or two, and it's just been enough for me to realize that it's not what I like to do. Probably more because the content that I produce from it fails, right? And what I mean by that is I don't have enough, or I don't find myself sharing my opinion, because it's not as interesting as I think people might think it might be. So I just don't bother, and opinions are like, well, and everybody's got them, right? The other thing is I don't want to have to take the time to do the setup, the batteries, all that kind of stuff. I just want something that I can have on my bike that's static. It just stays there, but it'll record, and I can review those recordings, and that's what this provides. So that's super cool. Let's take a look at some of the specs on this C480. So if we take a look at the back of the box, it highlights a couple of things, so you get kind of the overall dimensions of the screen itself. But it is 1080p. It's got a 2.7-inch LCD. It does the high resolution wide, ultra wide angle, so you get more right in your shot, so that's good. It does GPS tracking. It has a slot for your SD memory card. It does have a built-in super capacitor, but that's not a battery, right? So that's going to give you momentary power. It is waterproof, IP67. It does have a microphone and speaker. I don't know how well that is, especially because of how it's laid out. It might not be. You'll probably pick up a lot of wind noise, I would imagine, depending on where you put this on your bike. But we can see. The really nice thing about this is everything you need to make this thing work is included. You don't have to go out and buy a separate GPS to make the tracker work. You don't have to go out and buy an additional remote control. You get the GPS, you get the remote control, you get the bar clamp if that's what you want to use, and you get the other accessories like your extension cables and whatever else, right? Like all of those pieces come with it. So very cool setup. Check it out if it's something you're interested in. But let's jump into it and let's see how this product works. I'm really excited about checking it out and seeing what kind of video output it'll have. But again, at the end of the day, I'm going to be super jazzed that I have the ability to record things in the event something were to happen. I could refer back to something, unlike I do today, where I don't record anything, so I would be at a loss. All right, so I'm trying not to turn this into like an unboxing thing, because again, not my thing, right? But in this kit, you get a lot of stuff. Let's pull this out. So what we're seeing right away is a remote, I think, that gives you the option to, perform some settings, and I think you can even take pictures if you want. You have your display. So it's a decent sized display. Again, you're not watching TV or whatever. And then you got your function buttons, right? And we'll set this up before we install on the bike. so we can see what it does and how it works. Looks like you get the mount, and then all your wiring to get these things hooked up. So this is your power supply, and then yeah, your cameras. So I don't know if it matters which one's front and which one's rear. I think they're identical. They probably color code these so that way when you hook it up to your display, you know which one's which, right? So I do like that. Everything's actually kind of color coded. And you get GPS. Now, I don't know how that's used in this. I wonder if you can like map your ride, or maybe it's even like you get lost, you can be found again. I don't know. And then of course instructions, or the manual, and some Velcro for, maybe that's for the GPS probably. Anyhow, so like I said, I have the ability to get this up and running right here on the bench top. If you don't have one of these and you do a lot of testing or whatever, I would recommend you pick up a power supply. I've got everything hooked up, and what's really cool, so they give you extension wires for your cameras, so that way you're not trying to mount the cameras next to each other pretty much, right? So you got your cameras are essentially on one harness, black and green. And what's pretty cool, let me see if I can show you on these. But if you look right there, there's an arrow, right? So sometimes it's a little hard to see down in these barrels, and you can't figure out, like, there's a little key in this, so that way it only goes in one way. But then you start doing this like endless rotation trying to figure out where the stupid key is. So it'll go together. What's really nice is they make it where there's an arrow on both sides, so you know exactly where that key is. You just point the arrows to each other, plugs in, and then you tighten it up. And of course, looking at this, you probably already can tell it is waterproof, right? So these are all waterproof connections, and that is one of the other bennies, and one of the things like I get, because I don't moto vlog, I'm not in the habit, and I don't want to be in the habit of having to set up cameras and all this other stuff. This is something that just, you put on it and it stays on it, and you don't have to worry about taking it on and off. And like I said, if you want the video, then you can just go ahead, and I believe, I'm guessing here, just because I see this little port here, but that's probably where you put your memory card. So you put it in there and forget about it. So that's nice. Anyhow, we got it hooked up. I've got all of the other cables connected, our little hand control thing there, the GPS. GPS has got some red 3M on it, so obviously you're gonna probably put that in your fairing somewhere. And then we're hooked up to our power supply. So I'm gonna go ahead and power things up. You see a little green LED down in here that is on. Oh, it said something. Okay, it's asking us to set up the clock settings, so let's go 2025. Does that go to the next one? Nope. What does this do? Nope. I don't know. I'll have to set up because I'm going to disconnect it from the power anyways. Now, it looks like the image we're seeing right now is a 2-camera image, so a picture-in-picture. Let's see here. I'm assuming, so this is camera 1, or the smaller camera there. Camera 2. So I would think that your green is going to be your front. I don't know if you can swap these. Let's peel that off so it doesn't look like horrible video. And get us right out of the light. So pretty decent. So before I break things down, what I want to do is figure out like where do I want to mount these things, the camera and the display. So I think the easiest one for me, at least personally, is to mount my rear facing camera literally just kind of right underneath there. I can attach it to either the brace or bracket, whatever support for the tour pack, which kind of sets it back a little bit further. I kind of like that. Just gives a little bit of a hidden look to it. Or you could, you know, take it all the way out if you want. Put it right there. The front is a little bit trickier. I'm not sure if I want to do it right to my shark nose underneath there, which, I mean, I'm not sure if I really want it there. You could also, attach it. What's nice is you can attach it here if you really wanted. You can even do it on the side and then just rotate your camera. The only downside is if you attach it to your handlebars or the forks, every time you turn, then the camera is going to turn, which, depending on what kind of video you want, it might be kind of cool, because then it does give you a little bit of that, like, flying type of content, right? So yeah, I'm still trying to figure things out. I can even go here on the support bracket, get the right angle, and it'll be static. And what I like about that is it kind of blends in, since it's black on black there. So I might end up going there. Yeah, that might be the spot. Kind of like that, and it means I won't have to disconnect it if I have to take off my fairing. I don't have to worry about that. So that is also one of the pluses of that. So now let's look at the display. So for the display, it comes with the handlebar clamp or whatever, and I have mine tilted pretty far back. So because of the angle I have my bars at, if I try to slide it down, the screen can't articulate that far up. So it doesn't really make sense, at least for my application, because of how far back, and that's a me thing. I think most people usually push their bars forward, and this would probably be a far better setup if you're doing that. I think in my case, what I'm going to do is not go with the clamp, but rather I got to figure out, because the access to the SD card is on the bottom. I was thinking about attaching it right up here, because it's small enough in form. All right. It's small enough in form where I could put it up there and it wouldn't even block my radio. So that's kind of nice. So I'm not sure. All right. I got to figure out where I want this. In the meantime, I'm going to run the wires. I do have to take off, or I'm going to take off my gas tank, just because I'm running the battery wires, of course, through the trough. So I want to make it clean and not, I'm not trying to zip tie it to, parts of the motor or whatever. So a little extra work, but it'll pay off in cleanliness when you look at the bike. So let me go ahead and strip things down, and I'll have to figure out where I'm going to put this display. Time for a mid-install check-in, and I've got all of the wiring ran, so now it's really just about, and connected, it's just about cleanup at this point. So as I mentioned, I tapped into that positive and negative, and something I figured out, or not found out, like stumbled on, sort of, because I was reading, the yellow in this thing is the positive, and the red is the ACC. Now these have the inline fuses, so they are fused, but the norm, of course, is usually red is positive and yellow is ACC. So just something to note, that is a little bit different. I tapped in to the remote, which that remote basically runs, or doesn't basically, it does run off of the cigarette lighter for the bike, because that is the auxiliary, and I don't use the cigarette lighter for anything at all. I don't even think you can put a cigarette lighter in there. But anyways, I got those cables going through. Now, if you're not paying attention, you probably won't even notice where the front camera is, unless you remember what I said. And I put it right there. So it's there. It's pointing straight forward. I've got my tank back on, so I took it off, put it back on, because it was really just running a cable through that trough. But this is the cable for the rear camera, which is sitting right there, kind of pointing back. And I went ahead and mounted him onto the actual bracket and not the saddlebag. I just felt like that might be a little bit more stable, but who knows, I could be totally wrong. Anyhow, so that's where that is. And then looking up here, like I said, still got to do all the cleanup, but now we can see how this thing's going to look. So I've got the rear facing camera there, and then the forward facing camera right there. So I got a little bit more to learn on as far as function goes, but essentially all I'm going to do is button this up, and we will, I don't know how I'm going to do this, but we're going to go for a ride, and that way you can see kind of the camera in action there, and then I'll also drop in some video from the cameras. I want to see like how it records it, if it records both cameras at the same time, or do you have to flip, you know, what is it, right? Like how do you see things? So I'll be curious to see how this goes. So let me finish buttoning this up, and it'll be time for a ride. So I don't know if you guys caught it in the video, but one of the things I did do was I swapped out the mount from the one provided to this one here. This one I also picked up off of Amazon for like $14, and I like it because it's, you know, fully articulating. You can kind of move it around pretty good. It's got two different balled ends that allows you to really kind of put this thing in different positions, which with my bars where they're at, I'm able to find kind of a happy place for them where I can still see my other gauges and see the video screen. All right, guys, so that's a wrap for this week's video. I wanted to just give you a comparison between the GoPro video and the Cerwin Vega camera setup video. You can see that the quality is there, so it's phenomenal. I was actually not expecting it to be as clear as it was, so that's pretty cool. And the fact that you get both forward and rear facing cameras is another huge win in my book. Like I said, depending on your handlebar setup, you may have to swap out the type of mount, totally depending on you. I mean, if you could definitely use the one that comes with the kit. I just wanted my screen a little bit lower, and because of my angle of my bars, I was like, all right, let me get something that's a little bit more adjustable, and for 14 bucks couldn't beat that, right? Like, that's an easy win. So I don't know, you guys be the judge. Like I said, if this is something where you're not a moto vlogger, like I'm not a moto vlogger, so I don't have any desire to put something on, take something off. I just want that sense of security, knowing that I have a dash cam that's constantly recording, and if anything, God forbid, were to go wrong, or something that I needed to have some kind of video proof of, I now have it. And if I want to pull out the card and just kind of take a look at what the ride was looked like, I can do that. Now, in the instructions, it does say which micro SD card is preferred. I think it goes up to 128 gig, which is a huge amount of space. So that should be plenty. And you can set up the clips, I want to say, for like several different durations where it records like the next clip. So if you want smaller files, you can do that. Or if you want them larger, I think you can go up to 10 minutes. So it's very adjustable based on your preferences. And overall, I think a great product. So we're going to continue to use it. And yeah, we'll revisit this in about a month or so once we get a little bit more mileage underneath it and see if we have any challenges. But overall, I think it's a great system. Again, I want to say thank you to the guys over at Cerwin Vega for allowing us to take this product and give a review on it. So I hope you found this video of value. And if you did, hit that thumbs up. If you enjoy the content, I'd love to have you as a member of our community. And until that next video does post, I hope to see you in the win.